Hi guys, and welcome back to Ups and Downs for Star Trek Lower Decks. I am Seán Ferrick, and joining me again, because he's just wonderful, is the wonderful Marcus Bronzy. Marcus, thanks a million for coming back.
Having me on is wonderful. Thank you very much for having me on, Sean. Cheers.
It is no problem. It is always nice to, deflect the rage of people toward another person. So I'm very, very happy to have you here. I'm, of course, joking. Everybody is lovely, as is this show. We're 2 weeks late on the checks now. So this week is... Gonna get in trouble. This week, we're looking at Lower Decks episode Crisis Point. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into the ups and downs for this week.
And just in case this is your first episode listening, we get an up if we like something from the show. And if we don't like something from the show, it gets a down. And you are free to get busy in the comments and disagree with us. How dare you? Go on, do it.
Okay, so first off, what I thought this week is that this was, narratively, it's a very, very kind of straightforward episode. It kind of shoots all the way through straight to the end. It's very, very easy to follow. I really enjoyed the cold open. And what did you think of that with Mariner's apparently abandonment of the Prime Directive?
Yeah, I mean, we start off at the end of a story where Mariner is basically part of a giant rat statue being pulled down to save some lizard men who will no longer be subject to rat oppression because basically the rats were growing them as food. So it was a nice kind of throwback to all Treks where we're talking about the Prime Directive, where we've seen the Prime Directive get violated a number of times, and also we've seen it get violated and agreed with our protagonists as well. So yeah, it was a nice cold opening, a good joke with regards to the lizards kind of agreeing that they are quite tasty food, which was quite funny as well. And then obviously it kicks off the whole show with obviously Captain Freeman, who's Mariner's mother, that we know that as an audience at this moment in time, which is important. Remember I said that. And her basically saying, right, your whole punishment for messing with the Prime Directive and disrespecting Starfleet rules is I am going to send you, Mariner, to therapy to see Dr. Miglimoo. And it just left me thinking like, okay, this is definitely going to be a mad one. So that's how it kicks off. A great cold opener. I love it, Sean.
Yeah, really, really good. And there's one little visual gag there that really got me. It's just after Freeman, Captain Mum basically says, look, we can't interfere here. The rat just turns, looks at the lizard and just licks his lips. Doesn't say a word, just licks his lips. And I thought, oh, that is brilliant. Do you know what it actually reminded me of? TNG season 1. I don't know if it was a deliberate Easter egg, but the Antikins and the Silay, Lonely Among Us. And the reason it was good is because that was Mark Alimo's first appearance in TNG. Sorry, that was a real deep dive there. Popped into my head.
Easter eggs there. Straight in with the Easter eggs there, Sean.
I know.
Yeah.
But no. So as you say, she gets sent to therapy to... How many food puns can you get into one scene?
Oh man, Dr. Miglimoo. Basically, I don't even want to start with it because it was making me go insane. I was like, what's going on? Dr. Miglimoo likes to compare things to food all the time, basically, which is so random. But I found it kind of funny.
I thought it was good. It just stayed under the line of too much, so that it stayed funny.
It's just a bit weird. It was weird. It's like a weird soupçon of a comedy that they threw in there, which was nice. Not everything has to make your belly, get belly laughs out of us. So that was cool. That
is, and you know what? That's true, because I would say this episode as a whole didn't make me belly laugh. There were a few moments now that, like, genuinely, like the rat licking his lips, that I got a proper snort of laughter. But this probably was the one episode now that didn't get a belly laugh out of me, and I'll come back to that when we're going through our ups and downs. Okay. But before we get anywhere near there, so instead of therapy, Mariner decides she's going to use the holodeck. So this is our big holodeck episode of the season. Yes. And just brilliant because she manages to co-opt Boimler's incredibly intricately built holo program, and everyone is programmed to within an inch of their real selves, and she just hits a code.
So it's that classic kind of Barclay thing from TNG that we see where we've got Boimler has created this precise bridge, this precise Cerritos, using the personal files of each of the actual people that are aboard it. So what you find is this is going to be very, very real. And he's using this is ongoing through it. He's using this whole fake bridge just to get him some extra points because he has to he's got a diplomacy workshop, that's it, and he really wants to impress the captain because Boylan wants to climb up the captain's bottom. That's his job in life. He wants to be the ultimate ask kisser, so he's going to do that by working with the simulated crew to find out everything he needs to know about the captain. And like Sean just said, Marina takes it over and within like 30 seconds turns this simulation into an amazing sequence, which just before we go forward, because this kind of lays in something else, when we first get into the holosuite, they're doing clay pigeon shooting with Da Vinci. I just want to throw that in there real quick so you can have that in your mind. And because that runs into something else later on, I think Sean will probably want to mention too. And that's a lovely little throw to the fact that in holosuites, it's great in Trek. They remind us all the time throughout canon that you can just grab anyone from history and have a conversation with them. And the fact that they were with Da Vinci and instead of like kind of quizzing him about anything that he'd done in his life, they were just doing some clay pigeon shooting. That was a nice little touch as well. But anyway, sorry. As we move on, Marina's taken over the holosuite and she's programmed it, Sean, and we get to see some amazing visuals, don't we?
Oh my God, we do. So the first up of the episode for me was, there's no other phrase for it, ship porn.
Oh yes,
as they do that shuttle flyby of the Cerritos. I remember when the Cerritos was first shown to us in that image, those few months ago, and some people were like, "I'm not sure." Some people were like, "I'm totally sold on this. I love this." This should make a believer of everyone because the way they show this ship is just like, what Enterprise? Okay, maybe not. We're still fans of Enterprise E and Enterprise D and Enterprise C.
Yeah, man.
B,
and
A.
there's like a million lens flares in there as well at the start as well.
Oh
which
my
is definitely
God!
A throw to the Kelvin flavor of ship sexiness that we see in the Star Trek motion pictures, because that is what Marina has programmed. She has programmed Boimler's simulation into a Trek movie, and as we know, Sean, in every Trek movie we do have to have those glamour shots. We do need the ship porn, so we do get that ship porn in there that's so beautiful, right? That it's so beautiful that we do get some tears, don't we, from our chief engineer of the Cerritos.
I love it because, yes. Absolutely, that is you can just imagine Scotty, Kirk, all of them just weeping openly, doing the fly over the ship. I thought it was perfect, and as they exit space dock in the ship, they do this beautiful. Again, it's motion picture and J.J. Abrams, the way they warp off. It's just this.
It's beautiful.
It's lovely.
That's why Billups is crying, by the way. Sorry, I just said chief engineer. Billups, lovely, good old Billups.
Love it as well. No, I just it perfectly parodies that the depiction of the ships in the movies, while also giving you a beautiful look at the Cerritos from every which angle you could possibly think of.
Yeah, exactly. And then they throw us into the usual movie vibe, which is there has been not even a distress call, a thank you call from another ship, thanking another ship. Which, if I'm honest, I need to. I need to remember the name of that ship. It's the Clemente. That's it. The Clemente.
Hey.
Thanks Starfleet for their second contact ship. But the problem is the Clemente does not exist. So therefore the Cerritos, instead of the Enterprise, because they can't, because it's lower decks, has been sent to check it out. And what I love about them going on this mission, Sean, as well is, and I'm going to let you decide whether this is an up or not, because this might just be me personally, Sean, is the way that every single captain says to engage warp has become a thing in Trek over the years. So obviously we've got Picard saying, engage or make it so. And then we've got, Discovery Pike saying, hit it. We've got the Kelvin Pike saying, punch it. Instead, we get Freeman in this saying, warp me. Which I just thought, it's a silly joke. It's not an amazing joke. I just thought, that's a good one. Nice one.
No, I like that. I like that because, like, Lower Decks, it's entirely its own thing. It is Easter egg heavy as a show, and like that has got many ups from us in the past. But that's fine. But it does exist on its own 2 feet. And Warp Me being Freeman's thing, yep, I'm cool with that.
That's t-shirt material. That I'd love a Warp Me t-shirt.
Not me. I don't go in for those kind of merch things myself. I couldn't possibly comment.
You go for something a bit more formal, do you, Sean? Because like the Rutherford
just had it
wearing there, mate.
Just had it lying around, you know.
This is Sean's casual wear, by the way, if you haven't noticed.
This is true. So the Cerritos, it encounters what I took to be, I think it's a Klingon ship, a Klingon design, and you have Vindicta, who is being played by Mariner, has lured the Cerritos out here so that she can have her face off with Freeman. There are Shakespeare quotes flying around, which they beautifully get called up on. Ransom goes, is she quoting The Tempest? She's got Tendi and Rutherford are working with her, and Shembo, who was supposed to be played by Boimler, but brings her the wrong drink and gets vaporized.
Yeah, I love it. And at this point, just to clarify, you're probably across it. Yeah, so Marina and her ragtag crew, they're the real people from Lower Decks. They're the real world people. And then everyone else in the Cerritos at the moment is a simulation bar Boimler, who's decided to stick behind and get as much intel as he can from Captain Freeman to use for his conference later on.
And he's the little, although there is not really a B plot in this episode, I suppose you could call him the A and a bit plot. So because he's running around, he's interviewing characters as they're being shot and as they're being killed to try and find out more about Freeman for when he does finally get this interview later on. But yes, it's just hilarious seeing him still trying to be Boimler, still trying to do his job. Even while at one point he sits down and gives some serious side-eye to the lens flares going on the bridge of the Cerritos, going, what the heck is going on here?
Exactly that. He does get a little bit of information. He finds out that from Ransom that the captain has got a sweet tooth, but she's allergic to something. We do not know what it is at this point in time. So he gets a little bit of information, but nothing that can really help him progress like he wants to in Starfleet, because that's all he wants, poor Boimler.
All he wants is the punishment that Mariner got, which is a promotion.
Yes. Oh man.
There's a good well, hang on. There's many good, but once Mariner comes over, she just starts shooting everyone. So these are all holograms. So she's not actually killing people. Debatable.
Yeah.
But Tendi and Rutherford they're there with her, but they're both there for very different reasons. So Rutherford realizes he can do anything, and so he exits stage left very quickly, and we'll check in with him in a second. But Tendi stays there, and Mariner keeps getting these digs in about her being an Orion, start acting like a space pilot. And Tendi's like, okay, sorry, not all Orions.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Yeah. A bit out of order for Mariner there, isn't it? This is the point in the episode where I was a little bit like, she started to turn, and I was like, is she turning heel on us by being a little bit racist?
I got this bit. So this corridor fight, which leads to the mess hall fight. Yeah. This is Mariner kind of at her worst.
Yeah.
And this, okay, spoiler, this one is going to be a down for me. Okay, because
on that, man. Yeah.
Mariner in this episode, she's not likable. Like, you don't root for her really at any point. There's the whole exchange where she keeps making these comments to Tendi because she's getting lost in the part. But she basically kills hologram Shax, which is fine. But then she starts playing with his ear that's been blown over to him with the Bajoran earring on it. And it's a bit like, oh, this is a bit much. What's Shax ever done on her?
Yeah, like in some ways, Sean, like I'm like, I agree with you. In other ways, I'm like, is it because she just knows that it's a simulation? Is it because she's so woke in the Trek universe? She's like, this isn't real. It's just whatever. Like, so I don't know. Like, listen, you're calling it down. I'm like 80% of the way with you, but a little bit of me is like, Marina kind of understands that it isn't. But at the same time, I'm like, she's a bit. she's a bit psycho, mate. If I'm honest, she's showing the tendencies of a real villain right now.
That's true. And in fairness, like I'll call it a down, but she is a psycho. So if I get a knock at the door, it's an up. Don't worry about it. It's an up. Sorry. Right as you were having your coffee. No, so she slaughters half the crew. Tendi eventually, there's actually great little thing. So Tendi is covered in the blood of Shax and she's had enough. She's like, nope, I'm sick of the comments. I'm sick of the killing. She calls for the arch and she walks off the holodeck. And finally, as she walks to the door, the blood disappears. Because the amount of times you see on holodeck episodes, somebody gets wet, they're still wet on the outside. Somebody gets X or Y, they're still on the outside. Whereas this, it's just straight away. And I'm like, oh, nice attention to detail there. I like that.
Nice one. Nice.
So we have Rutherford then. He's legged it down to tell Billups what he really thinks about him. And it's pretty explicit what he tells him. Like, I was a bit surprised with how much Rutherford comes in. He loves him.
See, I would have given this a down, right, Sean? Because he said he's the best. He said he's the best officer in Starfleet, pretty much. And we all know when it comes to chief officers, when it comes to looking after ships, there's only one man out there, and that's Chief O'Brien. So I was a little bit upset. I'm not running the ups and downs on this show, but I'm just saying I'm markedly putting my protest out there. Chief O'Brien, I'm with you. You are my number one engineer, all right?
I will, out of solidarity, I will give that statement a down. Chris, you hear that? If we can give that an extra down as well, I'm speaking on behalf of somebody who believes Chief O'Brien is the most important man in the universe. And also, I'm Irish.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
No, nobody speaks bad about my O'Brien like that. Okay,
I mean,
that's a down right there.
Nice.
Now, the second best officer in the fleet, Billups and Rutherford, run around and they do their best to save the day, and Rutherford gets a great gag in. So the ship goes down, crashes, fantastic nod to Generations there with the saucer section getting pummeled. And Billups is like, oh my God, we got to save the crew. And Rutherford goes, oh, just beam them off. And he's like, how did you do that? He's like, oh, it's a movie. It doesn't have to make sense.
Perfect. Great. That's a throw to the many times we've seen warp kind of being disregarded in movies then, right?
Absolutely. Also, big looking at you, Star Trek Into Darkness, beaming from Earth to Kronos.
Yeah, and then warp speed transporting as well, which was mental as well. Anyway, sorry.
but it's gas, and in fact, that of course it's the symptom / symbol of all of this episode. This episode is completely sending up what happens in the Star Trek movies. You have, as I said, that crash. You have the way transporters work. You have something I should have mentioned much earlier. The music for this episode. It is very much the Lower Decks music, but it is also very much the Wrath of Khan music going on. Big up, see it right here. This is an up to Chris Westlake for this episode. He knocks it out of the park with how they do the music here, because they keep it, as I say, they keep it Lower Decksy, but they also keep it movie sexy.
Okay, that rhymes. Okay. Poet, you didn't even know it. Yeah. Cool.
Alrighty, I'm gonna take that. And then, you know, this culminates with Captain Mum versus Mariner.
Yeah.
What did you
Freeman
think of this
Mariner,
exchange?
I found this interesting, very clever writing, because here you have Marina versus her simulated mother, Captain Freeman, talking, and what you find is the advice that Marina wants, she actually starts to get from the simulated characters, thus further proving how out of order she is, because these perfect simulations of Starfleet characters that she thought might act, for some reason it feels like she thought they'd act differently in a simulation, start to give her advice, and she's trying to kill her mum, man. She's trying to kill a simulated version of her mum. And I think this is where I fully will support. My 80% turns into like 90%. Because I found that a bit weird. And then obviously it gets even more weird where simulated Mariner beams away Captain Freeman, and then simulated Mariner starts to fight the real Mariner, and the simulated Mariner's kind of the good person in this fight, and our real life Mariner is kind of acting and saying more and more kind of cliche things like, I know every move you have, and also like more and more psychotic things towards herself. Kind of giving herself her own therapy, which is so weird, but I guess clever writing as well.
Yeah, I initially, I said this before, I was disappointed that evil Mariner is real Mariner, but I think even thinking it through again, she was just working out her issues, and that's fine. I don't see why so many holograms had to die for that, but that's fine. That's just me. And I like as well, and this is kind of payoff, that Boimler makes a huge deal at the start of the episode about how painstakingly he has created all of these holograms to be the real people. And so the real Mariner is the hero. And it just takes seeing a holographic version of herself to figure that out. So I do like the payoff. I think there was potentially too much slaughter on the weight of that payoff, but I think it was good payoff. And of course, then
the big
Hollow Mariner.
Yeah.
Like Hollow Mariner does her big Data Spock sacrifice at the end and blows up the ship, and
herself as well.
And it's great.
Yeah, and everyone else, just to prove how much Mariner, the real Mariner, shows via the simulator Mariner that she actually loves Starfleet and the ship, and you know, the whole reason why she is still in Starfleet is probably because of the love that she has from her mother, Captain Freeman, who we as an audience are very aware is her mother at this point. You even heard me and Sean for the last few episodes of Ups and Downs calling her Captain Mum, because, you know, she's mum, isn't it?
Absolutely as well. And of course, it's very important that up to now we've been the only ones to find this out, because somebody accidentally finds this out in a moment, because the simulation ends, and it's just a fantastic visual gag calling back to the search for Spock. Evil Mariner comes up out of the torpedo, gets shot back down by Da Vinci. Amazing. And then Boimler back in. He catches a speech by Freeman saying, "My daughter, Mariner." Amazing. He does his interview, completely flops it because he's completely panicked by it. End of the episode.
Yeah, and this was a nice point for me, because I forgot at this stage, Sean, that we were the only ones that knew that she was her mum. Because we've heard so many reference points to it as an audience member. I'm like, well, I know, everybody must know. But I forgot, like, it's only us, the audience, Mariner and Captain Freeman, as far as we know, until Boimler finds out, that knows that they're mother and daughter, and that's the reason she's getting away with all of these ludicrousness. That's it. So there's a moment of, oh, this makes sense, and then to be continued. So overall, I thought good episodes, not the best, but certainly not bad. I thought good few gags. I'll fly very quickly through. Got a few Easter eggs here. Cool. We've covered a lot of them already. So 80s in general. So there's Easter eggs to outside Star Trek with particularly aliens. You know, "Get off my mother, you." Was a great gag. A lot of the motion picture, Wrath of Khan stuff, Generations Beyond, Zon, which I really like. So this was a deep cut. So back when Star Trek Phase 2 was going to be a thing, yes, they were going to replace Leonard Nimoy, who had the audacity to ask for more money. So David Gautreau was cast as Zon. Star Trek Phase 2 never happened, which is why. Do you want to fade into the background like Zon? Who's Zon? Exactly. And to be honest, we've actually covered everything else, because the Easter eggs were dotted throughout this. So I thought this was a strong episode, vaguely less funny than the last few, but in closing, I thought it was a nice character study. Yeah, and they managed to pack in loads of stuff about the motion pictures as well, which was, again, I'm impressed by the amount that they cram into these episodes. Sean and I could carry on talking for another hour and a half about this. It's no joke. We have to really crush this into a nice compact 20-ish minutes.
It's good. And do you know what? I thank you for the challenge. But as you say, we have come to the end of this episode for Ups and Downs. Thank you very much, everybody. Marcus, where can they find you online?
2 places, at Marcus Bronzy, MarcusBronzy. All social medias, find me there. I also have a podcast called How to Kill an Hour.
It is fantastic. Check it out. Remember what you thought about this episode. Stick it in the comments. What did we miss? What did we not get? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I am, and have always been, that I know of, Seán Ferrick. You can catch me at Seán Ferrick on Twitter, where I'm most active. Please come back and join us for the season finale next week. In the meantime, you are awesome. Live long and prosper.